Have you ever noticed how much more sensitive we become as we get older, not in a bad way, just more aware? Maybe it's because we've lived long enough to know what really matters. Or maybe it's because we've carried decades of stories, struggles, and growth in our hearts. And yet, sometimes, even after all those years of experience, one small comment, one offhand criticism, can sting deeper than we expected. You know the feeling. You're sitting at a family dinner, sharing a story, and someone interrupts with, "That's not how it happened," or maybe, "You always talk too much." And suddenly, you're not in your 60s anymore, you're 12 again, being told to be quiet, or to sit still, or that your feelings don't matter. It's wild how fast those moments can bring us back. That's what today's video is all about, how to handle criticism gracefully after 60, without losing your peace. Because let's face it, criticism isn't going anywhere. Whether it's from a partner, a grown-up child, a stranger online, or even from yourself, learning how to deal with it in a healthy way is one of the best gifts you can give yourself. Not just for your peace of mind, but for your self-worth. In this video, we're going to have a heart-to-heart about why criticism feels more personal as we get older, how to stop it from stealing our joy, and a few simple habits that can help us stay calm, kind, and confident, even in the face of harsh words. And before we dive into it, can I ask you for a small favor? If this kind of content speaks to you, if you believe it's important for people over 60 to have honest, uplifting conversations like this, please help me grow this space by giving this video a like, sharing it with someone who might need it, and subscribing to the channel. I'm working hard to reach 1,000 followers so I can keep sharing messages that really matter. Your support truly means the world. Alright, let's get into it. Let's start with this: not all criticism is the same. Some of it comes from love. Some of it comes from pain. And some of it, well, some of it doesn't deserve our energy at all. The real trick is knowing which is which. One of the best things I ever learned was this: criticism says more about the speaker than it does about you. I want you to sit with that for a second. When someone criticizes you, they're often revealing their own expectations, fears, or disappointments. It doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It doesn't even mean their opinion is true. It simply means they're offering you a mirror, but you get to decide if that mirror reflects who you really are. Think about this: if a friend told you that your laugh was too loud, would you stop laughing? I hope not. Because that laugh, your laugh, is a sign of your joy, your history, your light. Just because someone else finds it uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong. But it's easy to forget that in the moment, isn't it? So the first step to handling criticism with grace is learning not to react immediately. And I know that's hard. When someone says something that hurts, our instinct is to defend ourselves, to push back, or to shut down. But instead, try something simple: take a breath. Literally, just inhale slowly, and exhale. Give yourself 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, remind yourself, this moment does not define me. That tiny pause can make all the difference. It puts space between the comment and your reaction. And in that space, you reclaim your power. Now, let's talk about the stories we tell ourselves. Sometimes, the criticism we hear isn't even that bad, but we make it worse in our heads. Let's say someone says, "I think you could have handled that better." A pretty neutral comment, right? But suddenly, your inner voice kicks in: "I always mess things up. I'm a burden. I'm not good enough." That's not the other person talking. That's your own old wounds flaring up. And you know what? It's okay. We all carry those voices. But part of growing older is learning to talk back to them with kindness. The next time you catch that inner critic spiraling, try this: ask yourself, would I say this to someone I love? If the answer is no, then you don't need to say it to yourself either. Let me tell you a little story. I remember talking to a woman named Helen. She's 74, with a spark in her eyes that could light up a room. She told me that when she turned 70, she made a decision. She said, "From now on, if someone criticizes me, I'll ask myself one thing: do I respect this person's opinion?" If the answer was no, she let it roll off her shoulders like water. If the answer was yes, she listened, but only to see if there was something helpful to learn, not to punish herself. I thought that was just brilliant. So that's something else I want to offer you today. When you receive criticism, ask yourself, is this person speaking with love, or with judgment? And even if it's with love, does their opinion serve your growth, or shrink your spirit? Because here's the truth: you're allowed to grow, but you don't need to shrink. You don't need to become smaller to make others more comfortable. You don't need to dim your light to avoid attention. Your life experience matters. Your wisdom matters. And your peace matters most of all. Now that we've opened the door to understanding where criticism comes from, and how it can affect the stories we tell ourselves, let's keep going. Because handling criticism gracefully isn't just about what's happening outside you. It's about building the kind of inner strength that doesn't shake when someone else throws stones. Let's take a deeper look at how to build that inner peace, so even when the words hurt, your heart stays whole. So how do we build that kind of peace, the kind that doesn't fall apart when someone else's opinion rolls in like a thundercloud? It starts with recognizing that peace is not about silence. It's not about pretending the criticism didn't happen. Peace is about choosing your response instead of letting someone else choose it for you. I want to share something personal with you. A few years back, I was walking in the park near my house when I ran into an old friend I hadn't seen in years. We talked for a while, catching up, and then, out of nowhere, he said, "You've really aged." Just like that. No warning, no context. I remember blinking, smiling, trying to brush it off. But as I walked home, those words followed me like a shadow. I kept wondering, why would he say that? And deeper still, I started asking, is it true? Have I let myself go? But that night, something clicked. I sat down with a cup of tea, and I told myself, you've earned every single line on your face. You've laughed hard, cried deep, stayed up late with sick kids, worked long hours, comforted others through heartbreaks. This face, this body, it's not a mistake. It's a map of your life. And just like that, the criticism lost its power. I didn't have to argue with it. I just had to return to my truth. See, when someone criticizes you, the real test isn't whether or not they're right. It's whether or not you know yourself well enough to not be shaken by it. And if you're still learning that, if you're still building that inner certainty, it's okay. We all are. That's the beauty of this stage of life. We've got the time and the wisdom to come home to ourselves again and again. Let's talk about something else that helps: boundaries. It might sound like a modern buzzword, but for those of us in our 60s, boundaries are life-giving. Because we grew up in a time when being nice often meant being quiet. We were taught to smile through discomfort, to avoid rocking the boat. But now, in this chapter, we get to choose something different. We get to choose kindness without self-abandonment. If someone in your life constantly criticizes you, maybe a sibling, or even an adult child, it's not unloving to say, "That comment hurt me," or "I'm not open to that kind of feedback." You don't need to yell. You don't need to explain. Just speak with calm, firm honesty. One of the most powerful things you can do is model what respectful communication looks like. You never know who's watching. And the boundaries you set now? They're not just for your own peace. They're teaching the next generation how to treat others with dignity, too. Another thing to remember is that not all criticism sounds harsh. Sometimes it comes dressed up in concern. Like when someone says, "I'm just telling you this for your own good," or, "You know I love you, but," and then delivers something that feels more like a punch than a hug. And it's easy to fall into guilt or self-doubt when those words come from people we care about. But here's a gentle reminder: even love can be clumsy. People don't always know how to express their fears, and sometimes what they're really saying is, I'm scared of losing you, or I don't know how to deal with change, or I'm uncomfortable with things I don't understand. Their fear isn't your burden to carry. You can acknowledge it, even honor it, but you don't have to absorb it. Now, let's shift a little. Because sometimes the harshest criticism doesn't come from others, it comes from ourselves. And it's quiet. Subtle. It sneaks in when we forget something small and think, you're slipping. Or when we don't move as quickly as we used to and whisper, you're getting weak. That voice? That's not the truth. That's just a story we've heard too many times from a world obsessed with youth. But aging isn't a failure. It's a privilege. And you have nothing to prove. One of the best ways to silence that inner critic is to replace it with your own compassionate voice. Start small. In the mirror, after brushing your teeth, say something kind to yourself. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Maybe it's, you showed up today, or I love the way your eyes still light up when you smile. It might feel silly at first. But over time, those words become seeds, and they grow into confidence. I also recommend surrounding yourself with people who remind you of your worth, not because they flatter you, but because they see you clearly. Find friends who celebrate your growth. Who honor your honesty. Who listen without trying to fix you. Those kinds of people are like soul vitamins, they nourish your spirit. And if you can't find those people in your daily life, look for them in books, podcasts, even right here in this community. You're never too old to make new connections. In fact, at this stage, those connections can feel more meaningful than ever, because you're no longer looking to impress. You're just looking to be real. And real is powerful. Before we move on, I want you to try something the next time someone offers you criticism. Instead of reacting, say, "Thank you, I'll think about that." Then actually take a moment later, just with yourself, and ask, does this help me grow? Or does it pull me down? If it helps you grow, take it in and let it make you better. But if it pulls you down, let it go without guilt. You don't need to hold on to something that isn't serving your peace. Handling criticism gracefully doesn't mean you never feel hurt. It means you give yourself the space to feel the sting, then choose your next step with kindness and wisdom. And the more you practice that kind of grace, the stronger it gets. Like a muscle. Like a sacred habit. Like something that belongs to you, not to the world's opinion. Let's keep going, because there's more to explore when it comes to building this kind of unshakable peace. One thing I've come to learn over the years is that real peace, the kind that anchors you, isn't found in trying to control how others speak to you or about you. It's found in controlling how you treat yourself after they've said it. Because you can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to ride them. And sometimes, the most graceful response isn't a clever comeback or a well-timed pause. It's silence, paired with a strong sense of self-worth. Let's imagine for a moment that someone criticizes something very close to your heart, maybe your lifestyle, your health choices, your hobbies. Maybe they say something like, you should be more active, or, why are you wasting time on that silly project? In those moments, the temptation to defend yourself is strong. And that's normal. We all want to be understood. But the truth is, not everyone is ready to understand you. And that's okay. Your job isn't to explain your journey to those who haven't walked it. Your job is to keep walking with grace. You see, peace isn't loud. It doesn't argue. It doesn't need to win. Peace is quiet strength. It's that moment when you hear the noise and still choose your calm. It's that breath you take before answering, not to control the other person, but to honor yourself. Now, let's talk about forgiveness. It might not be what you expected in a conversation about handling criticism, but stay with me here. Sometimes, the sharpest criticisms come from old wounds, things someone said decades ago that still echo in your mind. Maybe it was a parent who never said, "I'm proud of you." Maybe it was a partner who always pointed out what you lacked. And maybe, just maybe, you've carried that voice inside you for too long. But forgiveness isn't about letting people off the hook. It's about setting yourself free. It's saying, I won't let your words live rent-free in my heart anymore. When you forgive, you're not pretending the hurt didn't happen. You're just deciding that it doesn't get to shape your future. And if you're thinking, but I don't know how to forgive something that hurt that deeply, I hear you. Start small. Start by telling yourself, that hurt me, and it mattered. Let yourself feel it. Then breathe. Then release. You might need to do that more than once. That's okay. Healing doesn't run on a schedule. Now, let's shift for a moment and talk about one of the best ways to protect your peace after criticism: perspective. Because sometimes the things that sting the most are the things that hit close to an insecurity we already carry. But what if you could step back, zoom out, and see the bigger picture? If someone criticizes you for slowing down, remember, slowing down is not the same as stopping. Maybe you walk a little slower now, but you notice more. You feel the sun on your skin. You hear the birds. You take the scenic route. There is beauty in your pace. If someone questions your choices, remind yourself, you've made it this far. You've raised families, built careers, survived loss, celebrated love, and picked yourself back up more times than anyone knows. You are not new at this. You are seasoned. You are strong. Sometimes, criticism can actually help you reconnect with what matters most. It can serve as a mirror, not to show you what's wrong, but to remind you of what you've already overcome. And every time you choose not to absorb someone else's judgment, you get a little stronger. A little clearer. A little freer. Here's something else that might help. Try developing a small ritual that brings you back to your center when you feel rattled. It could be stepping outside to feel the breeze. Or sitting with a favorite song. Or writing in a notebook just one sentence, I am still me, and that's enough. Little rituals like this are like anchors. They hold you steady when the tides rise. And remember, not all feedback is criticism. Some of it is just noise. Learn to tell the difference. Ask yourself, does this come from love? Does this person have my best interests at heart? Are they someone who's walked through life with me, who knows the full picture? If not, it's okay to let their opinion float away like a leaf in the wind. Not everything deserves a place in your soul. One more thing before we wrap up. I want you to know that it's not too late to become the calmest, most grounded version of yourself. In fact, you're right on time. There's a reason that in so many cultures, elders are seen as the wise ones, not because they have all the answers, but because they've learned what questions are worth asking. And one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself is this: will this matter 5 years from now? Most of the time, the answer is no. And if it won't matter then, maybe it doesn't deserve your peace now. So, the next time someone criticizes your clothes, your choices, your pace, your dreams, pause. Breathe. Remind yourself of who you are, what you've lived through, and how much beauty still surrounds you. Choose the high road. Choose peace. Not because they were right or wrong, but because your joy is too precious to hand over to someone else's opinion. You're in a chapter of life where you get to choose how you respond, not from fear, not from habit, but from deep, lived wisdom. You've earned that right. If any of this spoke to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Share an experience, a word of encouragement, or just say hello. Your voice matters. It really does. And if you found comfort here, please give this video a like. Share it with a friend who might need it. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so we can keep building this beautiful, peaceful space together. Remember, the way you carry yourself through the world is a quiet message to others, about grace, about courage, about choosing calm over chaos. So, go forward with that soft, steady strength. You've got this. You really do. Here's how to live your best life at any age,